Hello, I'm Dr. Annadale. I teach philosophy at Mount St. Mary's University in Emmitsburg, Maryland. Our reading for today is Thomas Aquinas' Summa Theologiae, the Secunda Secunda, Question 2, Articles 3, 4, and 6. I'll take each article in turn. Article 3 deals with the question of whether it is necessary for salvation to believe anything above natural reason. So the question here we can rephrase as, in order to be saved, in order to achieve union with God in heaven, must a Christian believe something more than what can be proved through science and philosophy? Is it enough to get us to heaven to simply use our natural capacities properly? Are we required to believe certain historical truths about Jesus Christ, or certain metaphysical truths about the church and the sacraments? Or is it enough to be pleasing to God simply to use our reason properly our whole lives long? So the issue here is whether theology and faith are needed for salvation in addition to philosophy and reason. As usual, Aquinas gives arguments on both sides of the issue before making a crucial distinction or expressing his key insight to unlock the problem. The objections give arguments for answering no to this question. Theology and faith are not necessary. Then, in a section called On the Contrary, Thomas gives a reason for answering yes to this question, and that sets up the field of argument in which he will make his crucial distinction in a section that begins, I answer that. Thomas's answer is to make this key distinction that when one nature is subordinate to another, then the lower nature can be perfected in two different ways. And as it happens, we human beings have a lower nature that is subordinate to God's nature, and therefore we can be perfected in two different ways. So my two study questions for you for Article 3, what are the two ways that a lower nature can be perfected? And what then are the two types of perfection of which a rational creature is capable? Rational creature meaning us, we human beings. Now on to Article 4. Article 4 deals with the question of whether it is necessary to believe or to have faith in those things which can be proved by natural reason. The question here is about the overlap between matters of faith and matters of reason. Can faith give us knowledge of matters that are also known by reason, and if so, should we have faith as well as trusting reason, or given that faith and reason can both give us the truth, would we be better off simply relying upon reason? Thomas's critical distinction in his I answer that section in this article is to give three motives or reasons why we should accept knowledge from faith about things which we already know by reason. And he gives an argument in support of each reason. The key item of knowledge that we can get both by reason and by faith for this article is knowledge of God's existence. If I can reason my way philosophically to understand that God exists, is it also then necessary for me to have faith that God exists? Aquinas gives three reasons. The first reason is that by faith we can arrive at knowledge of God more quickly. And his argument is this: the study of God, he says, presupposes many other sciences. And so without faith, people would come to know the truth about God only very late in life after mastering many other sciences. By allowing us to acquire knowledge of God by faith, we are able to arrive at knowledge of God more quickly. Aquinas' second reason for accepting knowledge from faith on issues that can also be proved by reason is that by faith, knowledge of God can be more widespread. And his third reason is, by faith, knowledge of God can be more certain. Study questions for Article 4. Find the argument for each of these two reasons in the reading. Article 6. It deals with the question of whether all people are equally bound to have explicit faith. Now the issue here is whether every Christian, in order to be saved, must understand and agree with church teachings, this is called explicit faith, or whether some people, especially uneducated people, can attain salvation by implicit faith, by simply believing what the church teaches without fully understanding it. The legitimacy of implicit faith was a major point of disagreement during the Reformation, which came about 300 years after Thomas Aquinas. Many Protestant reformers argued that salvation always requires explicit faith, that is, belief with understanding. Thomas and many Catholic theologians would disagree. The question here is whether everyone must have explicit faith in order to be saved, or whether some people can be saved by implicit faith. Thomas is going to argue for the second point. Some people, certain people in certain circumstances, can get into heaven simply by believing what the church teaches without fully understanding it. So my first question for you, who is it that is able to get into heaven, is able to be saved by implicit faith? And what group of people must have explicit faith, according to Thomas, and why? What's the relationship between these two groups of people in the world? If you understand that, then you'll have a pretty good idea of why Thomas is willing to defend implicit faith in Article 6. That's all for today. I look forward to discussing this reading with you later. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.